My Airbnb pays for my mortgage's interest payment in full each month. Most people are not taking everything into account when they're going into purchasing a home. In this video, I will walk you through how to never pay for your mortgage's interest payment ever again. My name is George Garcia. I'm a first generation American, and I've spent the past decade building a real estate portfolio one house at a time. I've slowly built my net worth to almost $2 million. And surprisingly enough, I did it by never paying the interest on a mortgage through house hacking. If you really want to create an interest-free future, you can make it happen if you stick to a few principles. So let's get into it. We all know that almost every other conversation about money right now is about how crazy expensive the housing market is and how impossible it is to get into one. Guys, I get it. The housing market is rough right now. And you're probably wondering, how can I still get in without getting crushed by interest or even get in at all? That's why the first step is to have an open mind about hacking your home. The second step is getting into Zillow and searching for houses. I still do this today. I love doing this. I do a search in my local market, start to zoom in and start hitting those bubbles. I have a feeling you like to do this too. And this is a good habit to have. Knowing what things are going for or whether or not they're a good deal is the first real step into seeing how you can get into a home. Here's what I've learned. If you apply yourself, create filters for those listings and start focusing on homes with basements, ADUs, which are additional dwelling units, and extra garages, or sometimes even just a little bit more land, that's where we start seeing the deals. The deals that allow you to get creative. And then you can start asking questions like, how can we move this wall and create a little bit of space for renting? Can you build a small additional dwelling unit with the land? Or can you maybe add something to the basement, create a separate entrance and close something off on the side of a house so that it feels a little bit more separate? How can we convert the garage into a small studio? What if we rented a room to a local student? Guys, the possibilities here are endless. Once you have a few properties that you feel like you can do something like this with, you start doing some numbers. Here's where most people get stuck because they start imagining and don't actually allow themselves to imagine a world where they can afford something. The first property I ever purchased was extremely out of reach. I couldn't even fathom. It was $380,000 for the house. And yeah, I know the prices seem a little bit low. This was 2015. So I started running the math. Could I afford this with my wife and my income? Yes, just barely. Would I be taking a huge liability? Maybe. Would I qualify for the home? Could I afford it and only have one income? Very unlikely. For some context, my wife was pregnant and I knew she would be unable to work because the baby was coming. So could I qualify for it? Sure. This is where fear started to take over. $380,000 for me was and still is an insane amount of money. I wasn't so much worried about the interest rate, considering how low they were back then, but I was worried about making a full payment. This is how most people feel right now. But I'm telling you, the thing that made all the difference was allowing myself to envision a world where I could make that home work for my family. I started to think differently, like I was telling you earlier, and what ifs. The positive what ifs, not the negative ones. And guys, it all worked out. We purchased the home. We added a separate entrance. We rented the basement. I ended up paying less than I paid on rent just a few months prior. If you add the income from the rent and subtract it from the total amount, it made sense. Even today, we rent our basement in this home we live in today, and it pays my full interest payment each month. Let me show you how it works. Let's say you have a house that is going for, let's use realistic numbers for today's numbers, like 640,000. The interest, let's make it a flat 6% for the sake of simplicity. Now, if this is your first property, you can pay less upfront, like 5% or less, depending on your loan provider. Or if you're the kind of person that has been saving a ton for this moment, we're looking at 20% or $128,000, which is a ton of money, I know, but totally doable. And I can show you how if you subscribe. Anyways, most people will do 30-year traditional loans, which makes your monthly payment come to around $3,994 with 70 cents. Okay, we have our monthly payment. So let's break it down into bite-sized portions, okay? For the record, I consider a principal portion of the mortgage payment a part that makes sense to pay. It's the portion that makes the debt go down and increases your net worth. It's like a bank account in my eyes. So as we go through the other steps, I want you to keep that in mind. The interest, on the other hand, that's the portion everyone is frustrated about. 6% interest rates are no joke. Let's take a look at the principal. That comes to $510 per month. Then you have an interest, which comes to a whopping $2,560 per month, not including taxes and insurance. Those are around $800 for property taxes here in Utah and $125 for insurance. So this is what we do. We tackle one of those at a time. The one we hate the most here is $2,560 per month. The objective is to pay none or as little of this amount as possible and have somebody else pay this portion for us. That is the number we have in our minds when we're looking for the house to hack. So we have $510 to principal, $800 to taxes, $125 to insurance. So that amount comes to a total of $1,425 a month. This portion is usually less than rent for that same house. So keep that in mind. So we have the first number, $1,425, which, you shouldn't mind paying this portion. And the second number, $2,560, which is the interest, also known as the number we hate. And then you have your total obligation, which is those two added together, the $3,994. So now for some extreme creativity. We must find a number that you can afford and a number that the property can generate with this creative solution. If those two numbers don't add up to $3,994, we don't get that property. We can't afford it. We can't afford it with this plan. But if you do something creative, like my friends and his wife did to purchase a $1 million house, then you can do it. Let me tell you what they did. Now, they did have a down payment for this, by the way, so that's a big variable to consider here too. But if you don't have 20%, all you have to do is add PMI or mortgage insurance as one of the variables to the example we did above. PMI is usually around $100 for every $100,000. So they're building a home and added two separate entrances, one on the right and one on the left of their basement. One side will be an Airbnb and the other side will be his wife's photography studio. They also decided not to have the builder finish the basement to save an additional $25,000 to $35,000 on the build. Where there's a will, there's a way, guys. With the money that an Airbnb and the photography studio will generate for them, they will be covering all of their interest payment and then some. I am very aware things seem out of reach right now. And for many people, it really is an unfathomable amount of money. I went over some insane examples, but the principles stay the same whether you buy a piece of land for $50,000 and add an additional dwelling unit for $100,000 or purchase a $1 million house. What I am trying to drive home is that there is no limit to our level of human creativity. If you feel like it's a good idea, you've ran the numbers, and you can take a little risk, it usually works out. The last thing I want to make sure you know, which will make or break this whole plan, is location, location, and you guessed it, location. Don't buy something where someone won't be able to rent from you. Go where people want to be, and then do the thing and make it happen. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys are wondering what my Airbnb looks like and want to see extra tweaks I've made to make it perform at a better rate, I'd highly recommend you go look at this video or this video or this video or this. I don't know where that video. Subscribe.